everybody, and welcome to the channel. It's Paulie Esther here, and today Dead by Daylight put out an announcement about the changes that they're making to the mid-chapter patch based on the things that they saw in the public test build. So we're going to go ahead and read through this. Onryo adjustments, Blight add-ons, Hillbilly add-ons, Perk tweaks, and things that are on their watch list. This is the January PTB developer update. So let's get into it and see what they're changing. Well, first I want to tell you about this new apparel company that I'm sponsored by called Into the AM. They make elevated everyday graphic t-shirts, and I just love the quality of them. When they approached me, I saw the designs and I absolutely fell in love with them. And you can use my code to get 10% off of anything on the website. I'm actually wearing this Galactic Grooves shirt here right now, and I also have this Cosmic Court tee with the astronaut playing pickleball with the moon. I just love the graphics on here. I would suggest, if this is your kind of style, to go on here and go through all their designs. And you can use my code to save 10% off, and obviously it helps the channel too, so I would appreciate it a ton. Anyway, shout out to Into the AM. Okay, so here we are on the official Dead by Daylight forums with this developer update for the January PTB, and let's go ahead and read through it here. We're a few weeks into the new year, and that can only mean two things. One, most of us have broken our resolutions already, and two, it's time for us to recap our first PTB of the year. In this developer update, we'll discuss the feedback we received from the most recent public test build and the changes we'll be making before the update goes live. First, the Onryo. In this update, we aim to restore the gameplay longtime Onryo players missed, while also maintaining some of the more recent quality of life improvements. We were glad to see such a positive reaction to these changes on the PTB. However, there are a few rough edges we'd like to iron out before this update releases. Locked in Condemned. With your current Condemned progress becoming permanent when you're hooked, survivors who were hooked with several stacks became a clear target for the Onryo. It would only take a few more stacks of Condemned to secure a quick and early kill. This indirectly encouraged the killer to seek out and chase the same survivor after they were unhooked, or tunneling for short. To tone this down, hooking a survivor will now lock in a maximum of 2 stacks of Condemned. Any additional Condemned will remain, but that can be removed by the survivor as normal. This can happen again when the survivor is hooked for a second time for a maximum of 4 locked-in stacks. This will give survivors an opportunity to remove some of their Condemned after they're unhooked, while keeping Condemned kills as a far more prominent threat later in the match. Yeah, that was one of my concerns. Like, if you weren't somebody who did anything with tapes and you got caught by Onryo and you had like 5 stacks of Condemned already and you got put on the hook and you were like locked in at 5, it just made a lot of sense. Not that the Onryo can necessarily see how many stacks of Condemned you have, but they can kind of suspect that you're very close to being able to lose the staring contest with her at 7 stacks of Condemned with that insta-kill. So I do believe that the way that it was in the PTB encouraged tunneling to get quick kills. So I'm glad that they changed that. I was very fearful of that aspect, and I think that's a good change. So even if you have 5 stacks of Condemned and you get hooked, then only 2 of them are locked in on your first hook, and you can go to a TV and return a tape and get rid of those 3. So it's not as damning as it was if you got hooked with a lot of Condemned. All right, also for the Onryo, we have projection spamming here. One of the awkward playstyles we wanted to address with this update was the dominant strategy of teleporting as much as possible to quickly spread Condemned. We had hoped that limiting the range of Condemned to powered TVs would address this and allow us to remove the projection cooldown. However, some crafty Onryo players discovered that they could intentionally teleport to the wrong TVs first in order to spread more than 1 stack of Condemned to survivors that were near or heading towards a powered one. Clever. We've read a lot of positive comments saying that she feels better to play without a cooldown on teleporting, so we don't want to bring it back. Instead, we have made the following change. Power meter recharges over the course of 10 seconds. If the power meter is full, projecting will inflict 1 stack of Condemned to any survivor near a powered TV and empty the power meter. If the power meter is not full, projecting will not inflict Condemned and the power meter will not be reset. So you can use it for mobility, while not necessarily spreading condemned if your power meter isn't full, but it isn't going to hinder her mobility. So that's a nice change, I think, too. This will allow the Onryo to move around the map freely, so long as there are power TVs to project to, but prevent quickly building condemned by repeatedly teleporting to multiple TVs. All right, so next we're going to talk about the Blight changes. The Blight received a bunch of add-on changes during the PTB. We thought it was a nerf, and it wound up just being like some incredibly powerful combos. We thought they're nerfing his more vicious add-ons, and it was like, nope, they're just differently more powerful. After watching them closely and reviewing feedback, we've identified a few troublemaking add-ons which we'd like to address before the update releases. Compound 33. On the PTB, this add-on increased the Blight's turn rate by 33% for each consecutive rush. This effect ended up being stronger than we'd like and made rush attacks very difficult for survivors to avoid. You don't say. We have reduced the turn rate bonus to 11% per consecutive rush instead of 33%, and we have also reduced the required rush distance to 3 meters from 4 meters. This effect can stack up to 3 times. Iridescent Blight Tag. On the PTB, this add-on gave the Blight an endless supply of 60 rushes in exchange for putting his power on cooldown after a successful rush attack. It turned out this downside was not enough to keep this add-on under control, so we've made a few adjustments. I saw people like dodging like 60 rushes in a row from a Blight. It was just madness. 60 rushes. A rush attack, successful or missed, failing to slam or breaking a pallet with the Iridescent Blight Tag equipped, will now cause the Blight's power to be put on cooldown for 20 seconds. This will cause the power to go on cooldown more often, creating more opportunities for the survivor to evade the killer. Adrenaline Vial. Originally, this add-on provided many positive effects, making it a jack of all trades, and on the PTB, we simplified the add-on by removing some of the effects. This left the add-on weaker than we'd like, so we've made the following changes. We have removed the turn rate penalty. It was negative 55%, and we have also introduced a 5% rush speed bonus. It was 10%. All right, let's see what that does for the Blight going forward. Now, the Hillbilly. This is going to be interesting. Start your chainsaws. We're pleased to see such a positive response to the Hillbilly on the PTB. For the release, we'd like to take the opportunity to improve a few more add-ons and offer as many viable choices as possible. Grease Throttle and Thompson's Mix. On the PTB, these add-ons reduce the recovery time for successful chainsaw hits, and this understandably didn't provide much of a benefit in most cases. They now reduce recovery time after using the chainsaw, not just successful hits, by 8% and 12% respectively, instead of 10 and 15. Thermal Casing and Ragged Engine. Simple number tweaks for these. The Thermal Casing and Ragged Engine now decreases the speed at which heat dissipates when not using the chainsaw by 20 and 30% respectively, up from 10 and 15%, to help keep your chainsaw warm, because you want to go into that overdrive mode, right? And really kick up the speed. Discarded Air Filter and High Speed Idler Screw. These two add-ons increase the time it takes before overdrive starts dissipating. We've also increased the numbers on these to 20% and 30%, up from 15 and 20. So that keep your overdrive going longer, right? I'm eager to see new Hillbilly in live, but I'm also terrified. I want to see. I know there's some very skilled Hillbilly players out there right now who are fine playing him the way they are. So I'm terrified to see what those people can do with overdrive in their hands. All right, now we're moving on to the perks. Lastly, we've got a pair of tweaks for 2 of the perks which were updated in this past PTB. Save the best for last. During the PTB, Save the Best for Last would lose tokens whenever the Obsession lost a health state by any means. Well, this allowed the Obsession to do silly things such as intentionally allowing themselves to bleed out from deep wounds in order to reduce the killer's Save the Best for Last tokens, or you could like use Plot Twist with Nick Cage's perk, things like that. Save the Best for Last will now lose 2 tokens whenever the Obsession is hit by a basic or special attack. This way, the Obsession will need to put themselves in harm's way in order to reduce the killer's accumulated tokens. So you have to You have to be hit, basically. So, Quick Gambit. The PTB featured a change for Quick Gambit, which increased its effective range and simultaneously lowered the repair speed bonus. Many felt as if this lowered repair speed bonus was not worth the added risk of potentially leading the killer to your repairing teammates. This is when, you you bring the killer nearby a generator others are working on, and you give them a speed bonus to repair. Therefore, we have reverted the repair bonus. Quick Gambit now provides an up to 8% repair bonus speed to survivors within 36 meters. I still don't think people are going to use it, but it's an attempt. I appreciate the attempt. All right, now we have this new thing called the watch list. Before we leave off, we wanted to try something new, the watch list. We do our best to make informed decisions with each update. Sometimes we need to take a closer look and see how something plays out in a real setting before we commit to making any changes. However, we don't want to leave you in the dark in the meantime. This is where the watch list comes in. The items on this list are things we'll be keeping an extra close eye on once the update goes live, before determining if further changes are necessary. Please note, just because something's featured on this list, it doesn't guarantee that it will be changed. Likewise, things on this list are also subject to change as needed. The purpose of this list is to provide visibility on what we're monitoring and acknowledge the feedback we've been given. All right, what's on the list here? Grim Embrace and Dead Man's Switch. This perk combo was reported to be potentially problematic on the PTB. When Grim Embrace activates, survivors are forced to stop repairing the generator, causing Dead Man's Switch to activate and block the generator for an even longer period of time. This gives the killer a consistent way to activate Dead Man's Switch on all generators and take advantage of nearly the entire duration. Though this combo requires 2 perk slots, this can cause the generators to be blocked for quite a while, and we'll keep an eye on this build and make sure it does not get out of hand. Yeah, this is going to be a powerful combo, I would say. So this is when the killer hooks someone and they leave, and I think they get 16 meters away from the hook, then the Grim Embrace kicks in, and then everybody's off of gens. It really slows down gen progress, so going to see how strong this combo is. Generator changes. Generators are at the core of every trial, so any changes we make to them must be monitored closely. Unfortunately, due to an error, this system was temporarily disabled when the PTB went live, limiting the amount of feedback we were able to collect. We'd like to gather more info on how this system plays out in real matches before drawing any conclusions. The regression event system is not intended to impact the typical match, but instead to help bring an end to excessively long stalemates. We've received some concerns that the system may in fact impact matches where several regression perks are used at once, and this didn't seem to happen often on the PTB, but it's possible this may be more common on the live game where matches are much closer. We'll see what happens. So this is a thing where each generator can only have 8 regression events happen to it, which take off 2.5% or more of the progress on the generator. Remember, they've increased the amount of damage that a killer's kick will do to 5%. So they can either, using perks or using their foot, damage any given generator only 8 times before the entity will say that's enough. You can't regress this generator anymore. Now, the flip side of that is they've also made it so that survivors can't one-tap gens to clear up regression. They'll need to do 5% of the generator to clear it. If you just tap a gen and let go, it'll start regressing again as before, and it won't count as another regression event either towards the 8. It will just, you can't stop regression without putting in the amount of charges that were taken off to cancel out to 0 to stop the regression. So I personally think that these generator changes on the whole are going to be more harmful to survivors getting objective done than any of this stalemate clearing stuff is going to do, but we'll see what happens. I think this is a net positive for killers instead of a net negative about holding down this 3-gen and only being able to put 8 regression events on a generator. I think that's a lot. We'll see how it goes when it goes live, but moving on. The Onryo. The Onryo has gone through quite a few changes lately, and that can make it difficult to predict where she'll fall in terms of strength. We feel pretty confident with this version, but we will be watching carefully to see if any dominant strategies or shortcomings emerge and reassess as needed, which is fair. Same thing with the Hillbilly. The Hillbilly has a lot of potential, but a steep learning curve. A good Hillbilly can be scary as is, but the overdrive mechanic can make them even scarier. Like the map traversal is just going to be nuts for Hillbilly and overdrive. It may take some time for Hillbilly players to get used to the way the chainsaw controls during overdrive and manage their heat effectively. We'll continue to watch the Hillbilly as players master the chainsaw or shake off the rust to determine if fine-tuning is needed down the line. Yeah, I mean, you very rarely see Hillbillies. I think I've seen a few more lately because people are preparing to get the feel for the new Hillbilly, but we'll see what's going to happen. And with that, we've reached the end of the developer update. Each of the changes mentioned in this post will be available when the update goes live January 30th. We'll be looking forward to hearing what you think. Until next time, the Dead by Daylight team. All right, so that is your developer update here for next week. Remember, we're going to have Alan Wake release on the 30th, and I believe the tome will open the next day on the Wednesday, the 31st, and I should be giving away some keys for Alan Wake DLC codes live on stream over on Twitch. So if you want to come hang out with me on release day, you can win a free DLC copy of Alan Wake, perhaps. But that's all I have for you today. As always, thank you so very much for watching. I truly appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Hey, don't forget to take care of each other in and out of the fog. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye. It's a Gen Rush life for us. It's a Gen Rush life for us. Set a hiding, we do gens. Set a randoms, we got friends. It's a Gen Rush life.